Hello and good evening. A month after the brutal killing of Jodie Jones, independent detectives are being brought in to review the case. A murder weapon has not been found and no arrests have been made in the last 4 weeks. Well, today, a fresh appeal for help from the public was issued by Lothian and Borders Police. So our reporter Roddy Scott reports for the residents of East Houses in Edinburgh. The wait for answers is hard to take.
This weekend, Jodie's mum left fresh flowers at the entrance to the path where her daughter was murdered. Today, almost a month since she was killed, a new team of investigators began a review of the evidence in the hope that something will spark a fresh lead.
The review team will consider and examine all aspects of the inquiry to date, all the lines of inquiry undertaken, all the pieces of information that have been fed into the investigation to date, and from that they will suggest a number of potential new lines of inquiry.
Officers have taken thousands of statements and made numerous appeals for information, but have so far made no arrests. A reconstruction of Jodie's last movements and an appeal by 2 of her aunts did yield one important breakthrough. Police are still desperate to trace a man seen walking behind the teenager on the night she was killed. They believe he could be a crucial witness. There is still in the East Houses community a palpable sense of fear that a killer is on the loose.
It's just a total different place. It's just, you don't feel so comfortable. I mean, I've got my dog, but I think a lot of people are very uneasy to go out and about, really.
Very upset and frightened, very frightened.
Still very frightened?
I think so, yes.
Every community gets a dreadful fright when it happens to them. But if parents and youngsters can take basic safety precautions, they can still go out and about, but they must take care to keep themselves safe.
The tributes on some of these cards are beginning to fade, and with time and no major new developments, so too will the media's interest in this story. And that's a problem for the police, because if public interest diminishes, so do their chances of catching her killer.
Roddy Scott there. Customers of a Glasgow pub could have vital information about the murder of a teenager in the Pollokshaws area of the city. 17-year-old Thomas Loughery was stabbed to death in the early hours of Sunday morning, just a short distance from a local police station. Our reporter Mike Edwards has this.
Tributes ranging from flowers to football jerseys were being laid where 17-year-old Thomas Loughery was stabbed in the early hours of Sunday morning. He was found seriously injured here at the junction of Shawbridge Street and Netheraldhouse Road in Pollokshaws. The 6 feet 3 inches tall teenager, known by so many as a gentle giant, was taken to the Victoria Infirmary but died from his injuries.
He just was a guy that always had a grin, mild, wide grin, and just wouldn't walk by you without saying hello.
He was a nice big lad, he really was. He never passed me in the street, he always said, you know, hello Mrs Chambers, and very well mannered. A really nice lad.
One of the last people to see him alive was the manager of this pub. Detectives now want to hear from anyone who was drinking here on Saturday night.
Well, basically, young Thomas came along the street. He stopped and asked me if I had any tupping time. Apparently, he was mucking about with some paint and so on. And I said, no, I don't have any. Sorry, Thomas. He said, I'll try the garage. And he walked along to the garage. He then passed by about 10 minutes later, walking towards the phone box. And at that time, I was letting people out the function room. So there was a number of people in the street at the time. And that was the last I saw of him when he walked up the street.
Thomas and his family left this area of Glasgow and moved to Cardonald, but he had so many friends here, Thomas would return to see them every weekend. It's tragic that he lost his life on such a visit. Doubly tragic that he died within yards of a police station.
A social work expert is scrutinising an action plan prepared by Borders Council following the case of a woman with learning difficulties known as Miss X, who was sexually abused by 3 men, including her carer. The woman's attackers were jailed for a total of 24 years for raping and torturing her. Well, moves are now underway to ensure that vulnerable people in the area aren't being put at risk because of failings in the social work department.
This isn't going to be turned round overnight. I think what we have here is a real and genuine commitment by the council and the managers to say we want to learn lessons, we know there are lessons to be learned, and we want to work with the community to take this forward. So I'm very positive about that.
The Transport Minister is pledging a better deal for ScotRail passengers with tough new targets and strict monitoring during the period of the next franchise. The tender document published today demands more reliable trains and less overcrowding, with no one standing for more than 10 minutes. 4 rival firms will battle for control of ScotRail.
It's crucial the way that the bid is tendered. We've taken the advice of the Strategic Rail Authority and we're looking for changes from the current franchise that will improve quality, improve frequency and allow for the expansion of services. We've got the most ambitious investment programme in Scotland's rail services for decades and we want to deliver that in a high quality way over the next 7 years.
And finally tonight, the Isle of Bute is being hotly tipped as the place for Scotland's latest celebrity marriage. Rumour has it that the cream of pop royalty will be heading to Rothesay for the wedding of the year. Well, it could be as much as the case of Doon the Water as Doon the Isle for Sir Paul McCartney's daughter Stella. It's thought that the clothes designer has chosen Mount Stewart House as the venue for her impending nuptials instead of the Mull of Kintyre, which of course was made famous by her father. And that's all from the Scottish Newsroom. Now it's time to hand you back to John Suchet with the ITV News headlines from me. Good night.